Welcome to another episode of Port Charles Chat. I'm Mom.
And I'm Brandon.
Thank you so much for joining with us today.
Yes, thank you for joining us as always.
All right. Brandon, how are you doing today?
Mom, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, Brandon. And for everyone out there, we're talking about the week of November 10th through November 14th. And just so everyone knows, for day of recording today is November the 16th. Are you ready, Brand?
Mom, I'm ready.
All righty. So let's give a brief synopsis of the week. It's been a busy week for us. First off, let's start off with Ned. Ned actually went to go and see Geo, and he saw him at Bobby's. But anyway, after visiting with Geo, Ned goes outside and he sees Drew. They have a conversation, but they end up really arguing with each other. Um, and then Drew kind of makes Ned really upset. Ned ends up having a heart attack. And I will say that Drew was not aware that he was having a heart attack when he left, but Ned does have a heart attack and he does fall down to the ground. Geo and Britt are the ones who actually go out and actually save Ned's life. And then we find out later that Ned needs a heart bypass. Um, Tracy just happens to be in Europe at this time, so she's not aware, to the best of our knowledge, of what is going on. Um, while Ned and Drew were arguing, Drew did admit that he did take Tracy's boxes. These boxes were at Lulu's house, but he did take those boxes, and that is really what upset Ned. And then in the meantime, Geo, Emma, and the others originally had planned to break into Dalton's lab that day. But once Ned became ill, Emma did call it off. Um, Charlotte, Danny, and Rocco took it upon themselves to decide that they needed to go ahead and break into Dalton's office. And so they took the key fob out of Britt's purse and they broke into the office. But when they got there, they realized that there weren't any animals there, and this is what Emma thought was going to be in the lab. The animals were being tested. Dalton actually came into the office while the kids were there. The kids hid very quickly. Rocco creates a distraction, and once he does that, Dalton does hear it. Dalton ends up taking Rocco out of the particular office, and they head straight to Laura, who happened to be there. In the meantime, um, Charlotte and Danny escape, and they run straight to Jason, where they tell Jason what's going on. Jason then Jason goes and he visits Diane, and then Danny explains everything that's going on with the particular lab with Diane. In the midst of all of this, Rocco is, like I mentioned before, is taken to Laura. Laura happens to be there because it is the day of the debate, and it happened to be on the college campus. And Dalton insists that Rocco is arrested. Rocco is eventually arrested, and he's taken to the police station. I have said an awful lot in a matter of seconds. Brandon, did I leave anything out so far?
I don't think so. Quite a lot happened this week.
Yeah, it did. A lot happened this week. And so, just to continue, um, in the middle of all of this that's going on, Rick, of all people, decides to go and visit Sonny. And so when Rick goes to visit Sonny, he actually says that he's willing to be Sonny's lawyer. Sonny is a little suspicious of Rick, and Rick says that he's there to make amends, and he would like to actually defend Sonny if needed for whatever. And so Sonny doesn't believe it. But then once he finds out about Rocco, he actually ends up calling Rick and asking if Rick is ready to prove himself. And so Rick will be the person who will be defending Rocco. On other news, Anna is kidnapped. and and everyone seems to think that she's working for the WSB. So in all of this that's going on, she is not there. However, Dante is actually named the acting police commissioner, and so he decides that he needs to rehire Nathan. Um, then another front, Michael and Jacinda are getting closer. Willow is now out of jail. Lucas decides to move in with Marco. Carly is not happy at all about this. And then Charlotte and Danny tell Jason about breaking into the lab. And as I mentioned before, Jason goes to Alexis. And then Britt, while all this is going on, asks Sidwell to not have Dalton press charges against Rocco. The ADA a little later tries to make a deal with Rick, and they do accept the deal, and the charges against Rocco were going to be downsized to a misdemeanor, and so he would have just served community service time. However, the ADA receives additional information and then decides during the court hearing itself that Rocco was going to be charged with a felony and that he would spend a couple days in jail until he's able to attend a parole hearing. And I think I've tried to capture everything. It was a very, very busy week. Brandon, your thoughts, and what did I miss?
I think you hit everything. And what I think is interesting, I mean, there's so many things to discuss here, but what I think is interesting, since you mentioned the whole Carly trying to get all into what Lucas is doing, is that everyone seems to know that Carly's been out of town, but supposedly looking for new Metro Court places to put.
Yeah, but no one's kind of put everything together, which I find interesting. And of course, just so the audience knows, of course, she is out of town visiting Valentine.
Dun dun dun.
Yes. Alrighty. And so, like I said, it seems as though I'm missing something, but I'm going to go forward and let's talk about our performance of the week, Brandon. I made it down to two, and you're not going to be shocked. I went with Rocco and Danny because I thought they both did a good job, and I know that Ned had his heart attack and everything like that, but I thought Rocco and Danny were the two that stood out for me for characters. Rocco especially. It's because we really don't get a chance to see Rocco act as well, and so I like that they gave Rocco an opportunity. All right, Brandon, what about you? Who are your performers of the week?
Oh, I 100% agree, Mo. I mean, I definitely believe that, yeah, Rocco is our top performer of the week, followed closely by Danny. And then for nice honorable mentions, I'm going to put Emma.
Okay, yeah, I'm a Emma. Wow, yes, Emma did a really good job this week, also. Yes. And then as for amusing scene of the week, I'm going to give this to Rick. And this is with Rick going to Sunny because I was just amused during the whole scenario. Because you and I had talked off camera about Rick and Sunny and how people have seemed to have forgotten that they're brothers. And so when I saw Rick at the door, I was rather amused and I was sure he was going to bring Ava up. And he did not bring Ava up because that would have been a great opportunity for him to do so. Instead, he just said that he wanted to help Sunny, but kind of like Sunny was wondering what's going on. But I just got a kick out of that. And I've just the thought process of it. All right, Brandon, what about your amusing scenes of the week?
Yeah, Mom, that's definitely a good one. The one I chose is a part of the conversation at the police station between Britt and Nathan, in the sense that Britt was saying to Nathan that, I talked to Mom out of coming here, and she's going to do all this and that, but it's like I see so many similarities between Mom and Rocco, and Nathan's like I don't see that many similarities ever. Then they can both find their way into a lab.
Yes. True, true, true. And then as for touching scenes of the week, I went with Geo with Ned because he did call him Grandpa, and I that's the first time I've heard him say that, and he could have said it before, but that's the first time I really caught it. And then Geo with his whole family, I like that. But then Lulu and Rocco because I thought that Lulu handled that pretty well with Rocco being arrested, and so I like the conversation that Lulu and Rocco had. All right, what about you for touching scenes of the week?
As an add on to that, I'm going to say, so in addition, I'm going to say Chase and Nathan. I think that they had a great one, especially with Nathan getting reacclimated, and I think it really, that scene really was a good moment for them. I guess the former partner of Dante speaking to, I guess, another former partner of Dante, trying to figure things out at the police department. Although I'd say highlight Chase's great eye acting.
Yes, he did have a great eye acting this week. All right, Brandon, did you have any fast forward scenes of the week? I had one, and that was Trina, because it just seemed like, we've got all these major things going on, and Trina's just worried about her parents in regards to the divorcing. And that was the only thing that stood out for me. All right, Brandon, what about you?
I would say what's interesting about this whole Trina thing. I mean, I think it is in character that she'd be upset, but the way that they're portraying her being upset doesn't seem like it's written for her, but instead written for Portia, because that's the way that she's acting made me think more of Portia than Trina.
Yeah, I agree with that too. All right, Brandon, did you have any missing scenes of the week? I didn't list any, but you could have noticed something that I didn't notice.
Not to my knowledge. I think this is a pretty cohesive week, especially Thursday.
Yeah, and that's what I actually have a new category for us, Brandon. I use connective storyline of the week. And so for me, that was Thursday also, because everything, for the first time in a long time, have I seen General Hospital connect the whole storyline all in one week. It appeared disjointed initially, but the with the kids going into the lab with Laura in regards to being going to speak at the debate, and then with Rick actually going to Sunny, everything seemed to relate, and I like that they showed this. All right, Brandon, what were your thoughts about that day?
Oh, I mean, I remember watching. It's like, oh, everything's connected. Even the things that had occurred like episodes ago, weeks ago. Like, I feel like this was all where it's coming together. Months and months of us hearing about this Professor Dalton in his lab. We don't know what exactly he does. Maybe he tests animals. Maybe he's a pervert. Maybe he's does this cold fusion. Whatever it is that he does, we're finally in his lab.
I know.
So it all comes together.
And I wish the kids, when they were there, had actually gone and actually taken some pictures of whatever it is that he does, so we know what that was. I thought it was got a kick out of it when they were there, and they're like, "There are no animals here. What is he doing?" So yeah, but yeah, I like that they actually had a day that connected everything together, and I think that takes a lot of forethought, and so I was happy to see them do that. All right.
Yeah, and I think it's what's interesting too is that they even connected this with this whole Measure C campaign and the election, and Sidwell and Boyle. Like it all connected, like all these loose ends that we just thought were loose ends and had no point.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that Rick, of all people, said that there was a way to get out of this whole Measure C thing, and yeah, he's like, well, whatever happens during the vote, he said, I know a way around it, and so I thought that was interesting that he told that to Sonny. But and so anyway, so then we're left with where are they? And for me this week, it really was just Kai. I was kind of wondering where he was, but I think everyone was accounted for that I was interested in this week. Brandon, was there anyone missing that you were kind of wondering where they were?
Not, not really. I mean, was Isaiah on this week? I don't remember.
I can't remember either. If he was, then where are you, Isaiah? But he I didn't miss him this week. Let's put it that way. If he was not on.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't really miss him this week, but like I said, like you were saying, the Kai being missing, I thought was interesting only because if like this week makes it feel as if his character's just been like written out entirely.
Yeah, and this would be an episode I would have thought he would have been on, especially with Trina. But then we have the missing people, but with an explanation. But I missed, if that makes sense. And I'm referring to like Anna. Anna has been kidnapped wherever she is, but I did miss her presence this week. And then the same with Tracy. Tracy, we've been given an explanation that she's in Europe right now, but because of Ned, I think her presence was missed. And so I'm hoping that Anna and will not be out long, or I don't know how long they plan to have her missing. And then Tracy will hopefully come back soon. All right, Brandon, did you have any missing, but yet we have an explanation why they were gone, that you actually missed the presence this week?
Actually, I would say with the whole Ned situation, I'd say my missing person would actually be Lois.
Yeah, that would make sense because Lois would and should have come back for her daughter. But then we have to keep in mind this all took place in a day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then welcome back. Welcome back to Dalton and welcome back to Boyle. They have both been missing for a while, and so welcome back to them. All right, Brandon, did I miss any welcome backs?
I mean, do we really want to welcome them back?
We don't want to, but they did add to the drama this week. and we don't know how long either one of them will be there, especially since well, especially since Sidwell is upset with Dalton for going against everything that he said. So that should be interesting because we know how people, when they go against Sidwell, how long they last. Oh, and they also brought back up the judge this week, Brandon. That, as a connective way.
Yeah, certainly interesting. I mean, and not only that, but they said that was the top priority or the biggest case, which is interesting because we haven't heard anything of the slightest from it.
Yes, yes. And there's something else I want to bring back that's a little different that we don't normally talk about with General Hospital, and that's the theme song. I was happy to see that they have finally added in several, well, I should say several, a couple of the new characters who have been in for quite a while. And so I was happy to see that they were added into the theme song. I saw Emma in there, and I can't remember who else. Oh, that's bad. But I did see Emma. Brandon, who did I miss?
Jack Brennan.
Jack Brennan. Oh, I kind of forget Jack Brennan. But yeah, so Emma and Brennan are in there. Hopefully, we'll see the others soon for one of the opening numbers. All right, Brandon. As for next week, I think I'm just open for anything next week in regards to what's happening. I'd like to see the connective part go on. I am sorry that Gio is involved with the kids, and because that's going to go against the relationship that he's trying to build with Ned and with Brooklyn. So that's going to be a negative. That will be a negative thing that's going to go on for for the whole family. So, but that's the only thing I'm not looking forward to. But I'm actually looking forward to watching General Hospital next week. All right, Brandon, what about you?
Actually, what do you mean, actually?
Well, well, there are those times when we just know that it's not going to be a good week. But I think that next week should continue to be a good week.
Well, hey, it's not like that episode from a few years ago where it was the whole episode of Finn playing chess.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. True, true. All right, Brandon, is there anything else you want to talk about for this week?
Well, two things. So first of all, it's now election day in Port Charles, but I want to get back to that in a moment. So I would say that this week on Thursday, I believe, maybe on Friday, but I think it was Thursday, had a misdirect of the week in which I really thought I was getting the flow of where Thursday was going, and then it went in a different direction than I thought.
Okay, and what is that?
So, like we were saying, Thursday really lined up, so all the points sort of went together. Well, when Gio told Emma that he had a way to fix the whole Rocco situation, I was for sure thinking, oh, Dante, who's now the commissioner, is his dad. He's going to go to his dad. But he went to Sunny.
Yes, he did go to Sunny, which is really interesting. But, I'm kind of glad he knew because of his dad, regardless of just because he was a police officer, that he needed to go to someone else to get an initial opinion. He is up to telling his dad now, but I think he needed to get someone else's opinion first.
But yes, and then going back to election day. So we're, I presume, finally going to find out whether this Measure C thing happens or not, and then if Laura will win or Boyle will win. And I like Laura. I think she's. I mean, I don't know if she's really a good mayor with all of that's happening, but I mean, I'm sure better than the competition. But at this point, why would you vote for Laura?
Uh, I don't know. Laura's just a nice person, but Boyle, is kind of devious. So it depends on what the people of the Port Charles is looking for, huh?
I mean, she didn't show up to the debate, which uh, I guess was the day before election day. I mean, I guess they don't have early voting in Port Charles, but so that's interesting. And then was it mayor's grandson gets arrested the day before election day, or actually thrown in jail on election day. We have it where the whole thing was Sunny, this or that, and so I'm curious as to how that's going to go. A part of me says, because I was going to say I don't see them dragging this out for having it where like Boyle wins and has the whole term, but I mean we had Drew, so I mean maybe Boyle will win and have a whole term.
I don't think Boyle's going to last long, but if he does win, but it'll be interesting to see. They did say that we'd have the results this week, so we'll be we'll see what happens, and we'll be able to talk about it next week. And Brandon, did you have? You said two things. What was the other thing?
Oh well, that was the first and second thing.
Okay. All right. Well, we thank everybody for listening this week and put in your comments what your thoughts are for what's going to happen for next week. And we look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a great day, everybody.
And mom, what was it to pause the outro for a moment? There's one thing I forgot that I wanted to mention.
What's that?
So earlier this week, I had a thought that came to my head about the whole Drew shooting, but
Okay.
I thought is an interesting theory, and that is that what if because I was thinking about the list of characters. It doesn't seem that anyone, although the end of the week makes me think more Portia, but at the beginning of the week, I didn't think that any of our characters really seemed to actually be there, other than that everyone's just being suspicious for their own various reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was thinking, what if the Drew shooting was just a pure distraction to distract us from something like with the whole Brit situation and Professor Dalton, all of that, because all the police resources are going towards that. Well, the WSB resources are going towards that. And we have so many mysteries on our hand right now that maybe just taking out Drew was just a way to pose a distraction. But that was something I wanted to share in the event that's possible for the beginning of the week. But we were saying that we don't know if Portia's redeemable. Maybe Britt's going to be the new co-chief of staff again.
Yeah, we did talk about that, and we talked about that off camera. One of the other things, and you're right, that ultra part, just kind of take that out for a minute. But anyway, the one of the things that we did talk about was that I had changed my theory a little bit about who could be one of the people who is a contender for Drew. And so I have gone now from Danny to Rocco. That's one of my thoughts, and kind of like you with Portia, because as we've kind of talked about, you just talked about Portia at this point is not really redeemable in regards to now she's having a baby with which we don't know which one. I'm hoping it's Curtis is the father, but then we also have the fact that she has done something with the patient. Yeah, so one of the other theories that I've come up with in regards to the person who shot Drew is that maybe it is not necessarily Danny, but I've changed my mind. I think it might be Rocco or even Portia. I know I mentioned Portia previously, but the reason I'm kind of leaning both toward both of them is that Danny has kind of taken a little bit of a turn for his personality, but then at the same time, Portia is not really redeemable at this time. She has, at this point in time, she has decided that well, she's pregnant right now. We don't know who the father is. Hopefully, it is Curtis. But if not, it would be Isaiah, and that would just be really weird to me. But that kind of ruins her as a character, and it also goes and would also hurt her with Trina. And then, secondly, we already know that she has taken records from the hospital. So she's actually going against the hospital policy. And so, kind of like you said, Terry is one that could actually take her down for this, and she would lose her position. Um, and if so, she did shoot Drew. I don't think there's a way to turn her around. And so she is a personal possibility also. And Brandon, I do agree that it could be a completely different distraction. But for right now, I'm going for Portia and for Rocco. And Danny's out in the clear for this week anyway. So those are my thoughts of the week. All right, Brandon, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean I fully agree. And with Willow being released, I'm curious as to how that's going to unfold.
Yep, same here. All right. Well, we want everyone to put their thoughts down in the comments. Let us know who you think is the one who you're thinking about who could have shot Drew. But thank everybody for watching this week.
And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Have a great day, everybody.